risk on. We have to be very careful and cautious. Because we've taken certain vows and we're encouraged to perform certain activities. But if we're neglectful, then we can also fall under the same illusion that Bharat Maharaj has fallen under. Prabhupada says, specifically in the purport, that we must adhere to chanting 16 rounds attentively every day. We must, he says, we must attend Mangalarti every day. He says we must worship the deity every day. We must study the Vedas every day. And he says if we neglect any of these principles, then we can also fall down like Bharat Maharaj. And he makes another interesting point. He says that even if one is in the renounced order of life, even if one has took sannyas, yet still he should adhere to these principles. He should not be neglectful. And most of us are nowhere near Bhava. Most of us are on the stage of Anartha Nivritti. But Bharat Maharaj was on the stage of Bhava Bhakti, and yet still he was a little lax in his following of rules and regulations, and he fell down. So what to speak of us? So Prabhupada warns us in this regard. He also says that because we see Bharat Maharaj, because of his absorption in the deer, in his next life he becomes a deer. But he has the consciousness of a human being, so he can remember his past life. And in this situation, he's lamenting, he's regretting, he's thinking, I was so close to perfection, yet I became absorbed in this deer. So Prabhupada says that also he says ISKCON devotees have sacrificed everything to spread Krishna consciousness. And if we're neglectful like Bharat Maharaj, then just as Bharat Maharaj was lamenting, we will also lament. We will also think if we fall down, I was so close to being perfectly Krishna conscious, and then one little thing came and I fell away from this position. So he warns us like this. So we can learn from this that we should develop a healthy fear from Maya. Because Maya can take us away from Krishna consciousness. So this is the first incident that we see with Sukadeva Goswami. The second thing we see with Sukadeva Goswami is that we see that he, on leaving the womb of his mother, he instantly leaves his home. And it's described how Vyasadeva chases behind him. And it's described that as Sukadeva Goswami is fleeing, he passes a lake. And in this lake, there are some damsels bathing. And it's described that they are uncovered. And even when Sukadeva Goswami comes, these ladies, they don't cover themselves. Vyasadeva is chasing Sukadeva Goswami. When Vyasadeva approaches, instantly these ladies cover themselves. So Vyasadeva, seeing this scene, he asks them, why is it that you covered yourself for me and not for Sukadeva Goswami? Now it's quite interesting because both Vyasadeva and Sukadeva Goswami are described as Mahajans. The ladies replied that when Sukadeva Goswami came, it was very clear that he was Brahman realized. For him there was no difference whether someone was a man or a woman. He just saw the spirit soul. And so they could understand this. But Vyasadeva, he was a grihastha, so he made distinction. So this is Sukadeva Goswami's exalted position. And in the purport, Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. He said, Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gardi hastane sunichaiva swapakasha pandita samadarchane. That a learned sage, he sees a brahmana, he sees a cow, he sees an elephant, he sees a dog, he sees a donkey as equal. Because he sees the super soul, pandita samadarchane. He sees the super soul in each of them. He sees the spirit in each of them. So this is the nature of an exalted soul, and this is the position of Sukadeva Goswami. We also see later, in the pastimes, how it's described how he wanders the provinces of Kuru as a madman, at least externally appearing as a madman. It's described how externally he appeared as a madman, but internally he was always absorbed in the absolute truth. And there's a reason he acted in this way. We understand from when he was in the womb of his mother how he had a fear of Maya. So also externally, when he left the womb, he appeared as a madman because he was fearful of materialistic association. So this is why he took on this demeanor externally. And we also see a similar position with the example I gave earlier, Bharat Maharaj. It's described how in his next life, after he was Adira, who did he appear as? Jad Bharat. And actually he was born in a highly qualified Brahminical family. And he remembered his previous lives. Now, to avoid materialistic association, he decided to externally appear in that. It's described how his relatives and the friends of the family were very materialistic. So to avoid their association, in the public, he would appear as a deaf, dumb, and a blind person. His father had great hopes for Jad Bharat, and he wanted to train him to be a Brahmana. But he chose, despite whatever instruction his father relayed, to act as a fool or act in the opposite way. It's described how his father would train him and teach him how to evacuate. So he would teach him that after evacuating you should wash your hands. But instead of washing his hands after evacuating, he would wash his hands before evacuating. So like this, he would do the opposite. It's described how for 4 months his father tried to teach him the Gayatri Mantra, and in the end he had to give up. It's described how he tried to teach him the different principles of how a brahmachari should live. But despite whatever he taught and trained him in, he would forget, or he would do the opposite. And eventually it's described how his father passed away. And Prabhupada explains in the purport, he quotes one verse from Bhagavad Gita, Karanam guna sangasa sad asad yona janma shur. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita that according to what the jiva associates with, he attains either birth in, it's described in his translation, evil species or good species. It's actually a law of nature. Whatever you associate with, you become. That's the way it works. Whatever you choose to put in your association, you will be affected by. Like Shakespeare said, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. So we should understand this principle. And we should take care and caution when we associate with materialists. I remember Jay Advaita Swami was giving one class and he said that it's like this game, you know, the lurgies. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. But you touch someone and they have the lurgies. It's a disease. It's transmitted like that. Not literally, but in the game. And so similarly, materialistic association can become like that. So in the name of preaching, we may have to associate with people that are not so much Krishna consciousness. Like yesterday, we saw that there were many people out in the streets that were not very Krishna conscious. And in such association, one can be affected. Naturally, when we preach, we have to associate. But the principle is that we should give association, not take association. But even then, we should be careful and cautious. Hence, we have to seriously practice our sadhana to be purified of that association. Living in such atmosphere, we have to take our sadhana very seriously. And we understand this principle from the great souls. So this way we see different pastimes of Sukadeva Goswami. The sages asked the question that even though Sukadeva Goswami was self-realized and a liberated soul, why did he study Srimad Bhagavatam from Vyasadeva? It's described that when Sukadeva Goswami fled from Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva sent 2 forest dwellers to chase after Sukadeva Goswami. This is explained in the Upapuranas. And he sent with them 2 verses. And one verse describes the compassion of Krishna, and the other verse describes the beauty of Krishna.